there friends, my name is Rachel GNS Middle. Gilbert and Sullivan is my middle name and my middle name is my last name, and I am here today on behalf of Forebear Theatre to explore the magic of the Gilbert and Sullivan operas by very pedantically ranking every element of them. Today we are going to be looking at quintets plus, that is all the quintets, plus the two things that are not quintets, which I also feel belong in this category. One is an octet and one is a sextet. There's also a septet in the GNS operas. There may be more things in finales, but nothing I felt was worth bringing out apart from the ones included in the list, which you'll hear about soon. There is a septet in Utopia Limited, Society is Quite Forsaken, that I did not include in this list. That's not because it didn't qualify for this list. It's just that there's another list of songs which I'm kind of calling showstoppers, which are songs which are like the proper kind of fun dramatic climax, not necessarily like emotionally, but just in terms of stuff going on in each opera, because like most operas will have at least one of these like big show-stopping numbers in them. Foeman Bears of Steel is a good example, and I felt like I included anything on that list which I felt was a brilliant song that had a good chance of doing well, and I think that Society is Quite Forsaken has a chance to do well in that list, so I have chosen to include it in that list rather than in this one. Will also wanted me to put So Please You Sir With Much Regret in that list, but I'm not. He was just trying to be nice to me, but as we know, that one didn't do as well as I wanted it to do. There are only 12 quintets plus in the GNS operas, and actually one of them was taken out of an Act 1 finale. The parameters are maybe slightly different. As I say, you know, I use slightly different parameters every episode because I think that for each category different things seem to be important. So for the quintets, they're pretty much all quite funny, apart from a couple of them, but only one or two of them are emotional at all. So it does seem that I don't really want to worry about something having both emotional or comedic value in this one. So I've given a mark out of 20 for music, a mark out of 10 for the lyrics when it comes to poetry, and then a mark out of 10 for lyrics when it comes to the meaning slash message. It does seem that, like, more than other categories I've discussed, that most of these quintets seem to have like a message that's kind of not necessarily completely outside of the story. I mean, mostly they work pretty well in the context of the story, but they seem to have like a wider meaning than in just in the story. They seem to kind of mean something else to the listener, or be like an important message that Gilbert is trying to give to the audience. So yeah, a mark out of 10 for that. Mark out of 10 for dramatic impact. And a mark out of 10 for emotional slash comedic impact. And then finally a mark out of 10 for enjoyment. And a lot of these scores are very close. I am much better in recent weeks at making my choices not high and actually using a wider range. But for this list, honestly, oh my God. For this list particularly, I really do love every song on this list. There's no song that I dislike. There are maybe some elements of some of the songs that I think are perhaps lacking compared to some other songs, but honestly, this is one of those lists where I really do love every song on it. Even the one that came bottom, I have performed in this song and I love performing it, and I think that this is just a really strong list of lovely things. Why do I keep going? Anyone might think I was tired. With that in mind, let's get started. So number 12 on this list, there are only 12 quintets pluses, is The Flowers That Bloom in the Spring, Tra-La, from the MIKADO. As I was saying just now, I love this song. It's an absolute cracker. The trouble with this song, and the reason it came so low, partly Joanna in my head. I just got this like miniature Joanna that lives in my head now that tells me, Rachel, there's not really much quintet writing in that. There is some. There's more than there was quartet writing in So Please You So Much Regret, but there's most of it is a duet, and maybe in hindsight I should have included it with the duets, but I didn't think of that at the time. I do think it does kind of belong here. But all in all, it's a really fun number, but it is quite short, and it's very much bridging a gap between worlds, because then after this song is sung, we get the alto coming in with that cracking aria, and then the scene changes. So it's more of a bridge between scenes than it is like a big epic number in itself. And I think even the most Mikado loving person out there probably wouldn't put this song in their top 10 or even 15 Mikado songs. It's fun and it's lovely and it's really joyful, because I remember I played the soprano twice. It was kind of in the same production, but we did it twice, so I kind of played her twice. And that tra-la-la-la-la, 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 there's something very happy about it, and I love going up to that top note. I think it's really fun. The lyrics, yeah, I mean, I like the meaning of them, so I gave that like an 8. I think it's a fun song for where it is in the story. Especially the Patagai's verse as well. I've got to take under my wing, tra-la. A most unattractive old thing, tra-la. It's very funny, with a caricature of a face. I gave it only a 7 for emotional / comedic impact, because I felt like even though his verse is very funny, it's not like as funny as sort of the other things that I would have given a higher mark for comedy for. It's just very friendly, nice, funny, like, oh, this is a great number. I only gave it a 5 for dramatic impact. I think that was pretty fair. I don't think this song does kind of it doesn't really have much in your face value. I'm gonna give it a 6 for enjoyment. Again, I think it is one of the slightly more forgettable numbers in the Mikado. 6 for poetry of lyrics. I think that's pretty fair. You know, I maybe could have given it a couple more marks for that, but it wouldn't have changed its position. Yeah, I do love this number, and the fact that it immediately follows that scene where, oh, but that's only her face. You know, it follows a really good dialogue scene, and it's a lovely full stop to that scene. But I mean, it's not a song that I think makes too much of a memorable impact, and I don't think it'll be one that people are really talking about after they've left the show. Certainly not if you look at the songs in the Mikado in general. I don't think this has quite as much of an impact, but maybe that's why it's fallen down a little bit, because the Mikado was so strong, especially musically and lyrically, that this one just, because, like, perhaps if this had been in like a different opera, it may have seemed way better than it is, but I just don't think it's quite up to the standard of the other songs in Mikado. Still, I absolutely love it, and I want to make that extremely clear to anyone who thinks I somehow don't like this song, which I do. Is that clear? Do you know I like this song? I like this song. Number 11, I have given to the octet from HMS Pinafore, Farewell, My Own, Light of My Life, Farewell. So there are a lot of things that I do love about this song. As a director, from carefully on tiptoe stealing all the way to the end, it's an absolute directorial gift, because the whole thing just directs itself. It's obvious what people have to do just based on what the words are. Just taking a moment to say that is a good thing. I need to stop yawning. I had so much sleep last night. I think that's the issue. I think I haven't been sleeping well, but then last night I then had like 10 hours sleep, so I think my body's adjusting to the feeling of sleep. Even though I imagine I'm releasing this video at the end of June, it's actually only been a week since the Grand Duke finished for me, and that came right after Gondoliers, and so I'm still pretty exhausted from that, and I had to take quite a financial hit because it meant I couldn't work as much in the weeks of that, so I've had to work a lot this week to make up for it. And yeah, it's been a tough time, but I'm determined to get all these videos out, and I will do that for you guys. And it would help me to keep assuring me that you like them. That would be nice, because I'm insecure and I need the validation. And share them. If you like the videos and you subscribed, well, if you've not subscribed, you should subscribe. Like that's another thing. So like, typically my videos are now getting like between 400 and 500 views. Like, they're doing really well. Yet I only have 160 subscribers or 170 subscribers. So if you're watching these videos and you're watching all of them, just subscribe. Even if you don't like them, I mean, it's not hurting anyone, is it? Just click subscribe. It helps me out. It makes me feel nice. Thank you. But yeah, share them. Share these videos. Like, to people outside of your immediate circle. And also, if you're watching these videos and you don't know me, can you like write a comment and say, like, hello, I am this person and I live here? Because I kind of want to know how far these videos are reaching. And any and every comment. I think I was a bit mean to a commenter on my Princess Ida video, but that's because it seemed like they were kind of invalidating my experience. They said something like, I thought you were a Shakespearean. I'm like, where in my videos did I say I was a Shakespearean? What I said was I performed Shakespeare professionally for 10 years. Never said I knew Macbeth. I had so many people telling me that that bit in Princess Ida was from Macbeth. Thank you. Thank you for that. But not thank you to the commenter who felt like I should have known that for some reason. As an actor who has performed Shakespeare professionally for 10 years, that doesn't actually require me to know every Shakespeare show. And I've never been in Macbeth, I've just never done it. I've never been offered it. Same as Romeo and Juliet. Like, that one has gone out every 1 or 2 years since I've been working with the company that I work with. Yet I've never been asked to be in that. Well, it's fair enough, because I'm kind of too old and tall and big for Juliet, but I don't really look like a nurse either. So I can see how, like, in that case, I just don't really fit into like either of the castings. So the ones I've played are, I played Ophelia, I have played Viola in Twelfth Night, and I also played Olivia at university as well. I have played Miranda in The Tempest. That's when I was blonde. I have played Helena in A Midsummer Night's Dream, and I have played Amelia and Bianca in Othello. So those are the ones that I have done professionally. But even them, like, don't try and quiz me on lines, because like we cut some of the lines. Just my professional Shakespeare experience, what that has equipped me with is just the ability to read text and the ability to, I've got very good diction. I don't know if anyone has been aware of that, but if you ever see me on stage, you'll know that I have extremely good diction, and I've got a big stage presence because I'm used to performing outdoors to many, many, many people. So these are skills that I have gained. What I have not gained is an encyclopedic knowledge of Shakespeare. The two things are kind of different. Anyway, back to HMS Pinafore. You can tell that I'm not at all offended or wound up by that comment. Okay, so first of all, I think the reason that this one didn't do so well, there's only really one element of this I dislike, and that's the lyrics. I don't think the music is like amazing. I gave the music a 12, which I think is fair enough. I only gave the poetry of the lyrics a 4, and that's because I found it a bit disjointed and also like a tiny bit lazy, and I feel mean for saying that, and I wish there was a slightly nicer word than lazy. Just like not as well crafted / thought out as some of his other poetry is. Farewell my own, light of my life, farewell. For crime unknown I go to a dungeon cell. I will atone in the meantime, farewell, and all alone rejoice in your dungeon cell. A bone I'll pick with the sailor fell, let him be shown at once to his dungeon cell. He'll hear no tone of the maiden he loves so well, no telephone communicates with his cell. I mean, if you just read it like that, it's I could have questioned the need for, I mean, it's nice that there's a song here, and it's nice that it's emotional. And I gave it a 9 out of 10 for emotional comedic impact, because I think it's really lovely and moving, and I love Ralph's and Josephine's bit, and it's very touching, and I do like when the music changes to "But when it's known of the secret I have to tell." Like, that's cool. I do like that. But I find it a bit underwhelming, the way that you're just seeing scenes from these people. And also Bosun, Dick Dede and Cousin Hebe have a trio when I don't think their interests are aligned at this point, so it's strange that they're singing the same thing as a three. I just find the rhymes a bit odd. And yeah, I only gave it a 12 for music because I felt it's simplistic, but it's also, it kind of grinds to a halt, and sometimes you don't really quite see how the music carries on from the last verse into the following one. So yeah, I don't mind this one at all. I think the meaning behind it is lovely. It fits very well into the story. I gave it a 7 out of 10 for the meaning / message of the lyrics. It's a very sweet moment. I also gave it a 9 for dramatic impact, because the impact of all 8 people singing at the end is really something. A dungeon cell. That is pretty dramatic, and it's pretty epic. I gave it a 6 for enjoyment. I don't think this is one that people particularly look massively forward to, but it is one that I like. I like all these numbers. I do think it deserves to do slightly better than The Flowers That Bloom in the Spring, because that's just a little bit of a rushed number that doesn't really have too much of a presence. Whereas this one, I do think it has a presence, and I do think it has value. It's just not the best writing of Gilbert and Sullivan, in my humble opinion. Number 10, I have given to another song from the MIKADO called See How the Fates Their Gifts Allot. Again, another song that I really like. In fact, this is one of those songs that I've barely been in, but you know what, I've not really been in the MIKADO too much. The last time I was in the MIKADO was 2017, but that was a concert performance, and I was the bottom mezzo, so I actually did sing this song, but it was just a concert that there was no rehearsals for it, so I don't remember that so much. The last time I was kind of in the show proper was 2000. I mean, I directed it, didn't I? Oh yeah, I forgot I directed it, but it wasn't really rehearsed, it was just a concert performance. The last time I was in it proper, that I actually rehearsed and we had costumes on stage and everything, that was 2011, so it's a really long time ago. This isn't a song that I find terribly memorable, even though it is quite a famous song. I think that it's famous. I mean, why is this song famous? Is it just because it's part of the MIKADO? Please tell me in the comments, like, why is it that this song is so memorable? I do really like it. I gave it a 12 for music. I know that's like a little low, but I'm thinking of other numbers in this that really deserve to, other numbers in this list that really do deserve to place a lot higher. So that 12 is just based on the other numbers in this list. I gave it a 7 for the poetry of the lyrics. I think that occasionally it verges on being a little bit simplistic, but it's pleasing, so I gave it a 7. And I gave it a 9, though, for like the meaning / message. I love this philosophically. I think it's so cool and interesting. See how the fates their gifts allot. For A is happy, B is not. Yet B is worthy, I dare say, of more prosperity than A. Is B more worthy? I should say. He's worth a great deal more than A. Yet A is happy, oh so happy, laughing, ha-ha, chuffing, ha-ha, nectar quaffing, ha-ha-ha, ever joyous, ever gay, happy, undeserving A. If I were Fortune, which I'm not, and I love that makes me happy every time. If I were Fortune, which I'm not, B should enjoy A's happy lot, and A should die in misery. That is assuming I am B. But should A perish, that should he. Of course, assuming I am B. B should be happy. I think there's so much going on in this song. I think for a start, it's playing on this like black and white view of morality, because the people saying, oh, life is really unfair, like really if all had their rights, I'd be enjoying what they're enjoying. But at the same time, while they're declaring that, yes, I think I should have all this and they should die some horrible death. I mean, if I really am, if that really is the way I think things are, because maybe... I mean, I don't know if this is what Gilbert meant in the song, but I like it though. The idea that the trio are actually wondering, like, are we the bad guys? Like, of course, assuming I am B. I mean, this song is all about me being B, right? Like, unless I'm A and I'm the one that's dying. Like, oh no, we don't want that. So I think it's this insecurity of who is right and who is wrong. And the introductory line to this song: I'm really very sorry for you all, but it's an unjust world, and virtue is triumphant only in theatrical performances. And the thing is, like, this song rings very true for me at the moment. Like, certainly, and I think it's definitely compounded by tiredness as well. But I certainly have gone through a great deal this year of feeling at times very, oh, woe is me, because I haven't been, because I perceive the work and effort I'm doing as, oh, there's a doorbell. One of my least favourite sayings is when someone says to me, oh, life is unfair. Because if you say, like, oh, that's really unfair that happened, well, life is unfair. And it does seem that I have faced kind of a series of quite unfair things, and so I do get very, very, like, deep in, there's no justice in the world mode. But then I also have to remember that maybe some people view my life as being, very privileged, which I am in a lot of ways, and then they look at me thinking, wow, you've had all these amazing things happen, you're really lucky. And so I do try and balance my thinking by imagining that some people might look at my life and really think that I've got it together. And so well, yeah, great. Yeah, I've got it together. Yeah, I'm doing really well. But yeah, so I definitely empathise with feeling this, and then think, oh, why do bad things happen to good people? But then I also know that I've not been perfect, and I've done some bad things as well, like things that I really regret. So, nobody is perfect or blameless in life. And like, I think especially as you get older and learn a bit more, I think you realise some things you did when you were younger, oh God, you cringe at things you've done when you were younger. But, life is all about making mistakes, and morality isn't black and white, and people aren't necessarily good or evil. But, well, some people are evil, but not many. Really not too many people are evil. But this is an interesting philosophical song, and I love the kind of tongue-in-cheekness of the trio not really quite knowing if they can confidently assert, like, I deserve good treatment here, like, but I mean, in this situation they do, because they've done nothing wrong, and actually the Patti guy did a really nice thing by just letting the tenor and the soprano go. And yeah, so he should be commended. But really, it's like the first nice thing he does the whole opera, and then that backfires on him, which is kind of funny. But I do love the message of this song, and I think that's probably why it's so memorable. I only gave it a 6 for dramatic impact, because I don't think it's, like, hugely in your face, much like Flowers That Bloom in the Spring. But it's just weird that the two quintets and the Mikado, like, just aren't terribly, like, dramatic or memorable. But I do find this one more interesting than the other one, and it's actually more of a quintet than the first one I talked about. I also gave it an 8 for emotional / comedic impact. I did give it an 8 for enjoyment, because I think that this is a really loved song, and I certainly enjoy it. But I have seen that this is cut from some productions, and my reaction to it being cut would be, oh, I wouldn't be like, this is outrageous, which, I mean, I would never do that in the opera itself. I would, just do it afterwards in the privacy of my own home. But I would never be outraged at this being cut, but it would be disappointing for me to have this cut. But it's more from, like, a completionist place than, like, well, because I really, really missed the song. But I do think it's great, and I think it's certainly good for the characters of the people involved, for the Mikado and the alto. I like it, and I am glad to sing in it whenever the opportunity comes up, which has only been once so far in my life. But yeah. Okay, so It's been a bit of a break since I filmed the last segment. Uh, I am currently in the process of, like, somebody tried to scam me, and thankfully I didn't fall for it, but I'm still in like quite a weirdly dangerous situation because of it. So I will let you know what has happened in the next video. It was a scam that I had no idea existed, and like thankfully I had my wits about me to know that what was happening was suspicious. But yeah, I'm sorry to like bait you with a cliffhanger, but yeah, it's like a pretty scary situation, and like it's made me a bit scared of being in my house because somebody knows where I live and is doing a scary thing. But yeah, hopefully everything will be okay. Number 9 is Here's a Case Unprecedented from the Gondoliers. This was a song which I used to like publicly really hate. And I remember saying, oh, it's an awful song. And I used to like say all the reasons why. The reasons I used to give, I'll tell you the reasons I used to give, because I found it very jarring and sudden. I now don't mind that so much. I actually gave it an 18 out of 20 for music. I think the lyrics are fine poetry-wise. I gave it a 6 for that. And I actually gave it a 10 for dramatic impact. Like, I think it's, apart from another one I also gave 10 to, I think it's like a really wow moment. And as Will managed to convince me of, it's a really good amuse-bouche to the Act 2 finale. I think Gondoliers has one of the strongest Act 2 finales of the lot, and it kind of starts here. So I like the fact that it kind of starts and gets you all riled up and then transitions into the big final scene. So I actually think narratively, dramatically, it works really well. I only gave it a 5 for emotional comedic impact because I think that even though it's a distressing situation, the words don't really reflect that, and that's an issue I have with it. Before I go on, I'll just say I also gave it a 7 for enjoying because I do quite like it now. It's quite fun. I did some fun choreo when I did it. I'll actually include the little filmed clip of it here yeah. What I will say about it, which is what I used to believe and what I still believe, is that I don't find what they're talking about sensical in terms of their solution to this issue they're having. And literally it doesn't even follow on from Casilda's line where she says, only before we go any further we must sort it out before it gets hopelessly complicated. I love the fact that I performed this 2 weeks ago and I've already forgotten that line. But there's something about getting hopelessly complicated. But then they proceed to panic and just get bamboozled by the maths. And it's very odd because there's a very immediate and obvious solution to this problem, which is that, yeah, so Casilda is obviously married to one of Marco and Giuseppe, but they already have people they love. But Casilda already has someone she loves. So the solution to this problem is that they all live at the palace together and have an agreement. And like, don't tell me that that's unrealistic, because that thing was totally happening in court. So like, don't tell me that isn't a thing. And I know that, you know, people, you know, have virtues and, oh, well, if I'm married to somebody, I couldn't possibly be with somebody. There's an arrangement. They could have worked something out. And like, anyone who thinks that like they couldn't have done, like, you're just believing in marriage for the sake of marriage, and that's like not why marriage even exists. Like, it exists for people in love, and the fact that members of royalty had to marry not for love, like, is a problem, and it's stupid. So I can see why some people wouldn't have wanted to like cheat on their spouses, even though everyone was happy with the situation, but still, I'm sure they would have got over it. You know, I'm sure that in time they could have sat down and figured it out rather than panicking about being divisible into 3. And it's like, also, no one's being divisible into 3 here because only 2 couples are actually married. No one has to, there's no polyamory going on here, or polyphilia, or multiamory, if we don't want to mix Latin and Greek words. But there's and not that there's anything wrong at all with polyamory. But that is not what is going on in this situation, but that is kind of what they're talking about. It doesn't make any dramatic sense to me. It doesn't make any narrative sense, and it seems like it's an entirely contrived panic, when in reality, if they just had a calm conversation, which the scene suggests it's going to be, they would actually find a very satisfactory solution to this problem. Like, yeah, Casilda maybe would still have to have biological children with one of the kings, but and that's not nice, but, you know, it's not the worst life, is it? You know, there's 2 marriages that are loveless and they both have an agreement. Hey, like the stray woman in Marco and Giuseppe can marry Lewis, and then they can all just live happily and it could be like an open secret. Like, what's the problem with that? That's obviously how you deal with the problem. And the thing is, like, I would understand it if it was made clear that that was the obvious solution, but these people are so virtuous that they hadn't considered it. Like, that's funny, but I don't think that's what Gilbert was thinking. I think Gilbert genuinely wanted us to be as kind of confused and panicked as they are. I don't buy it. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. And, like, I don't think that being virtuous in that sense is an admirable thing. Like, if you are in that situation, you have a mutual affair and everyone is happy. Like, it's just nobody would care. As long as you kept it secret from, like, the church, it's fine. Like, yeah, it's distressing because you have to keep things secret, but people were doing that. Like, people were doing that all through history. It's fine. Our current royal family have apparently done that. If I get murdered, now you know why. I mean, it's open. This is a thing that people do. Like, let's stop pretending that everyone's really virtuous in all walks of life, because they're not. But anyway, I like this song much better than I did, but I just find it a bit confusing for those reasons, and like a bit jarring. And also, they've had a similar song in a contemplative fashion, was kind of similar and better. So yeah, I just don't quite buy this song. That's my issue with it. But it's very jolly and it's very dramatic, and it fits narratively when it comes to how you feel when you listen to it. So I'll buy that. I'll buy it. Number 8, I have given to a song also from the Gondoliers called I Am a Courtier, Grave and Serious. And I actually wanted to give this number 7 because this actually ties with the next one, and I prefer this one. But the reason I didn't put this in number 7, I put this one in number 8, because it doesn't contain very much quintet singing. And again, that tiny Joanna is telling me that if there are 2 songs that are tied and one doesn't contain much quintet singing, I should put that one below the other one. So this, yeah, I Am a Courtier, Grave and Serious. And there really isn't much quintet singing in this song at all. It's only right at the very end. But what there is beautiful. I only gave it a 13 for music because I find it a bit long, disjointed, and quite simplistic until the proper beautiful quintet part kicks in, which I do absolutely love, and that was also used in the overture, and that transitions into List and Learn in that wonderful way. But I absolutely love this song. It's the only one that I gave a 10 out of 10 to for enjoyment. This is probably, as an audience member, my favourite song to watch in Act 2 of the Gondoliers, because it's always funny, because you've always got somebody funny playing the Duke, and Marco and Giuseppe are funny when they try and dance, and there's just so much scope for comedy. I only gave it an 8 for emotional comedic impact because I appreciate that some things are more laugh out loud funny, and the funniness is more in staging that people might choose to do rather than in the lyrics of the song itself. But I do think it's very funny. And a 7 for dramatic impact, maybe that was slightly generous because it's not terribly in your face, but it is a moment, and I appreciate that. I also gave an 8 for like the meaning message of the lyrics because it tells a clear story, and it's got like a fun little narrative within itself. So you see them attempt and fail to be, you know, gentlemen, courtiers, and then they learn. It's not really quite clear like how it is they learn. I guess they just, it's a bit like a montage sequence. You need a montage. I wonder if anyone's ever tried to play it like that. They've kind of given the illusion of them moving through time. But then this is all meant to take place in like one afternoon, isn't it? So that couldn't work. But you're meant to see them just like getting better in like 20 seconds from like, oh, they're terrible to, oh, they're actually great. It's silly, but I appreciate that there's like a story behind it. And it gives us this message that kind of nobility and etiquette is a bit silly. Like we also get in Ruddigore, and I'm sure other ones that I can't now think of. But we get message in a lot of GNS that like the upper classes and the things that they do are very silly and like completely arbitrary. And when people try and imitate them, the reason they look silly is because it is very silly. It's a silly thing to do, all this etiquette and bowing and kissing your hand, and I'm going to do this sequence of moves, and it's just so silly. I only gave it a 6 of the poetry of the lyrics, because honestly the poetry is not mind-bending. The rhymes are nice, but it's not one that you look at and think, wow, supreme beauty of language. And yeah, 13 for music. I maybe could have given it like a mark more for music, but I also just think the one that came above it, I am picturing that people would just be mystified if the one above it came below it instead. So I do think this is in the correct place, and I'm trying to keep my biases in check because I actually really, really love this number. And in a way, this is, for enjoyment, this is actually my favourite of the whole list. It's one of the ones that I really consistently enjoy. A lot of the others came higher for kind of intellectual reasons. And this one is just one of my favourites for just sheer joy and silliness and GNS-ness, which in a way means it should be the top of the list. It's a little bit like how things from Trial by Jury often come a little bit lower, because that's just so off the wall and unemotional. But there's definitely value in that, and that's the same kind of value that is found in this number. Number 7 I have given to a song also from the Gondoliers. How about that? Called Try We Lifelong. This is one of the musical highlights of the show for me as a performer. As a listener, like, I don't know if I get a huge amount of enjoyment from this, but that's just because the Gondoliers is full of such sparkling music that this almost seems average in comparison, but it is absolutely gorgeous. So I gave it 17 for music. I gave it a 9 for the poetry of the lyrics. My goodness, that poetry is very pretty, and I love how the lines kind of move together. Life's a pudding full of plums, kiss a conquer the be nuns, life's a pudding. Ooh, that happened. And oh yeah, in the Scottish Opera one, they went, life's a pudding full of plums. And I remember us asking Ben McAteer about it, who played Donnell, and he actually explained that they'd found that rhythm in like an old score, like an original score or something. And it's so fun doing like detective work and like trying to find out why different productions do different things. But that was pretty cool. I remember watching that, and I don't know if anyone else watched the same, but like when they chose that rhythm, I remember going like, huh? Because the thing is, I didn't think for a moment they'd made a mistake, because obviously they've not made a mistake, but I thought, wow, there must be a reason behind that, and I want to know why that is. And then I got to Facebook to ask, and then I realised that several people had asked already, and it's just like, oh, we're so geeky in the community, and I love that. I love that we all wanted to know about that tiny rhythmic change, like and then the fact that Ben was like willing and present to like answer the question. I just thought that was so cool. Of everyone, we're all great. Let's give ourselves a pat on the back for being such a nice community, when we're not complaining about all the young people that aren't in the GNS anymore. These young people, they don't understand the brilliance of GNS. Well, I'm not young. I'm young, so stop it. If you really believe in young people doing GNS, why don't you support the young people doing GNS? Why don't you support the young people who are doing GNS? We might not do it the way you want to do it, but You cannot deny that we love the material, because we most certainly do, and we want to preserve it. We want to preserve it in as much as we can in step with the modern world, and that is what we are doing, so please help us and support us. Thank you. Here is where it slightly falls down for me. So even though I kind of appreciate the philosophical message of this, like, we're never going to figure life out, so let's just do fun things and hop and skip around. And the things, I don't mean to trivialize it by saying that, because that is an important message, and sometimes it is really important for us to just take a step back and say, you know what, we're actually so insignificant. Like, it is a complete, I mean, I know people are religious. If you are religious, I know I have a different opinion from you, which is totally fine. But like, from my perspective, we literally just came into being totally by accident. It was like a massive, the odds of that happening were incomprehensible. We like evolved from slime by accident. And like, the idea that we get so wrapped up in like little things that happen is kind of silly when you think of it in that way. Like, in the grand scheme of things, we are so utterly inconsequential. Our lives are just they're gone in the blink of an eye. So why are we wasting time worrying? Not that we can choose whether to worry or not, you know, because I certainly have a lot of worries that I can't control. But why are we like wasting all this time like being so down on ourselves, questioning ourselves, when we should just be being our authentic selves and just spreading joy as much as we can? And you know, I'm guilty of sometimes not spreading joy myself, but that is what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to just be the best version of myself and just be very kind, be very polite, and just have a good time, and just try and live in a way that I think will make me happy and will help other people, and just do what I love to do and do all of my favourite things. And so I think there is definitely validity in this message, but I also think that it's not terribly comprehensible, and and it's also not terribly easy to direct this number. And I ended up honestly just having people stand there basically when I did this. It was one of the ones that properly stumped me. I have seen people try and do things which I like, but I don't want to directly copy anyone else. So I you know, I didn't really want to do what they'd done. And I've seen people kind of have like little snippets where one side of the stage you see Lewis and Casilda kind of having a conversation, then you see the Duke and Duchess doing a thing. So I think there are things you can do with this number, but I must admit, as a director, it stumped me, because even though it makes sense for Lewis and Casilda to maybe be singing these lyrics, and maybe Donnell, because he was the one that suggested it, but he doesn't even know about their situation, and neither do the Duke and Duchess. So why are they a part of this conversation? Like, is this just happening in Lewis and Casilda's heads? And so for that reason, even though I love the message of this song, I don't think it works well in the narrative of the Gondoliers, and I find it a bit like cloying in that way. But you know, it's not a big deal. It doesn't make me angry, and I will you know, watch it and still enjoy the number, but I certainly don't enjoy it nearly as much as I enjoy I Am a Courtier, Grave and Serious. But you know, when it's performed musically really well, of course it's an absolute joy. I even gave it a 7 for emotional / comedic impact, because I appreciate the value of the message, and I think the characters can embody that message. And I gave it an 8 out of 10 for dramatic impact, because this is a moment, like, this is the end of the whole Spaniard suite. So I love it for all of those reasons. I think it's a great number, but just slightly hampered by the fact that the words, I don't think, have too much meaning for most of the people singing them. So, number 6, I have given to a song from the Grand Duke called Now Take a Card and Gaily Sing. And this is another personal favourite of mine. I get a lot of enjoyment from this. I gave it an 8 for enjoyment. This is one that's often a victim of lots of snippage. Usually not because people don't like the song, but it's usually people just think it's too long, and I disagree. I don't think it's too long at all. I think people just get a bit fatigued by the whole card thing. And I don't really get that. I still love it, and I would always do the whole thing now. I know when I first directed it, I could have massacred it in this really weird way. I think I went, now take a card and gaily sing da 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 brum brum brum. Hurrah hurrah! I've drawn a king again. Here's drawn a king brum 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 brum. Now take a card. I think I just did that cut, and then the one I was just in, we did like a similar but not quite the same cut. And then I also just cut verse 3 when I did it. This was, you know, way back at university, because when I did it in 2018, I did the whole thing because Will convinced me that actually it's a really good song, and it is. Musically, it's just cracking. I gave it an 18 for music. The poetry's fun. I gave it a 7 for that, and I gave it a 6 for like meaning/message, because I don't think there's not really a meaning here. There's not really like a message in this song like in some of the other ones. It's just like, oh, play cards and you win and you lose. So there's a narrative happening, so I appreciate that, and that's why I gave it a 6, but it's not like there's a moral here. There's no one's learned anything or grown or changed as a result of this song. But I do think it's really fun. I gave it an 8 for dramatic impact because it's just a bit of a riot. It is especially the as a trustee sing diamonds hearts. It is really fun. I'm going to see if I can include some footage of us doing it back in 2018, because Will really helped us make a big thing of this number. This was one of the bits that he directed and not me, because I think I wanted to cut bits of it, but he convinced me not to, and I'm really glad he managed to convince me. So here is that.
Behold them both, yes, we will hold and sing past us diamond spades and both sing past us diamond spades and with thy joint decree as ours is notary we will now so because we elected you by joint decree as our trustee, this notary we will now install as our trustee. Sing diamonds, hearts and spades and clubs, diamonds, hearts and clubs and spades. Sing hearts and diamonds, spades and clubs. Sing diamonds, hearts and clubs and spades. Sing hearts and diamonds, spades and clubs. Sing diamonds, hearts and all. Hearts and all.
Wasn't that fun? I really enjoy this number a lot. I think it's an underrated song, and I have never been in a production that hasn't like cut it in some way, apart from the one I directed. I think it's really lovely. Actually, I don't remember about the one in 2014. I don't remember if that was cut, so I have no memory of that. But certainly this is often subject to lots of cuts, and that is, I think, a shame. Now, number 5 and number 4, these were two that I really agonised over, because these are two songs that I do think definitely belong in these two places. I don't know if they should be switched, but it was really tough because I really do love both of these songs for very similar reasons. And just ultimately it was the music that just brought one ahead for me. But I really do love these two songs, and either one of these could have ended up in number 4. But number 5 I have given to A Woman of the Wisest Wit from Princess Ida. I like the music in this. I don't think it's maybe quite as jaw-dropping as some of the other musical moments in Princess Ida. I gave it a 15, which I think is about fair. There's no difference between the first and second verse. That was what like clinched it for me, because it's just one thing and then it's the same thing again. There's no coda or anything, and so that's probably what let it ever so slightly down. So yeah, the message of this song, I gave it an 8. I don't have a problem with the message, but I think I'm not quite sure that the message is totally like kosher. So Melissa has just met Florian and realises that men are not hideous and ugly and deformed. But I wonder then, is that the truth? Is the truth that men aren't horrible? Because I think for a start, like, I don't know if she's noticed that yet, because obviously not all men are horrible, but you've not really learned about the patriarchy yet. You don't know what the outside world is and how women suffer in the outside world. So there's something slightly kind of naive about this for me, and it's slightly cloying to hear the big message of, you know, feminism being simplified in this way. And also it's not feminism isn't thinking that men are gross, it's just wanting to be equal to them. So I'm not saying that's what Gilbert was doing, but, you know, it's just... I gave it an 8 just because I think that even though it's ostensibly quite a nice message, there's something just ever so slightly off about it. Just ever so slightly that I can't quite put my finger on. And I gave it a 9 for dramatic impact, because this is such a... not quite show-stopping level as some of the other big show-stopping songs that I've put in my showstoppers list. But it is such a moment. And it's probably the climax of the string of pearls in Act 2 of Princess Ida. I love this number so much. I also gave it a 7 for emotional / comedic impact. It's sweet and funny. I don't think it's hilarious, and I don't think it's particularly emotional, just because we haven't yet really got to know Melissa and who she is and what she wants. I mean, perhaps if we had, it would have had more of an impact. Maybe if we'd seen some of the ways in which the students are suffering from this brainwashing, this truth might have had a bit more of an impact, but it does happen quite quickly. And so I don't really know how much of an impact it has because of that. I gave it an 8 for enjoyment though. I really do. I do love this number, and I don't mean to poo-poo it for saying that the message isn't very nice. Maybe it's the implication that we can solve all of the problems between men and women from women just seeing a man. I don't know. Because in reality, it's so much more complicated than that. And like reducing it to Melissa has met one man, and therefore that has completely negated everything Princess Ida has said. And actually in this case she is right, because if Princess Ida indeed had said that all men are hideous, idiotic and deformed, if she had said that, you know, she now knows that's not true. But it's just not really reflective of the actual issues that are facing women, and the idea that the problem is now solved, great, everyone's happy. I think it's just a little bit too simplistic for me. And I get that this is like a topsy-turvy world, but these are issues that we're still facing today. So, you know, and if you want to know about more of the issues, you can watch my Princess Ida video. But I think that's what it is. It feels like I know that even though the song is joyful and happy, they've not really solved the problem. Like, no problem has been solved here, you know? And number 4, so I broke the tie myself, and number 4 I gave to If Saphir I Choose to Marry from Patience, which is so much musically better than I remember, because I put If Saphir and A Woman of the Wisest Wit kind of in the same musical bracket, but If Saphir is actually so musically complicated and interesting. I gave it a 17. Especially that little clarinet, I think it's a clarinet, might be an oboe, but that little clarinet counter melody that's going on during each of the refrains. And the fact that the Duke's third verse is slightly different to verse 1 and 2, and there's that, hey, I will have to be contented with a heartfelt... There's that pause and there's that growl there, which makes that third verse a bit more interesting. And then he will have to be contented with a heartfelt sympathy. It's just so neat and so pretty. And yeah, there's not a whole load of quintets singing in it, but I think there's enough to satisfy Joanna. You know, there's enough. And I actually recently sang Angela in this for a concert, and it is such a fun song to sing. It just exudes joy and energy, and I love it. You know, the poetry isn't anything to write home about. I gave it, you know, a normal mark of 7. You know, it's not terribly meaningful either, because it's just, oh, the Duke's deciding who to marry, but it's very frivolous and arbitrary and very materialistic. Well, yeah, I don't mind. It's fine. I mean, because I think it's kind of satirizing the fact that this is what marriage was, just some kind of like transactional thing and not really based on love at all. So I think that is purposeful. Like it's not oblivious to that, and I find that just very funny and sweet and charming. I just think it's a very silly, happy song. I gave it an 8 for dramatic impact as well, because this is again, it's a moment. It's like a big moment. It's a really fun scene, a really fun song. Definitely one of my favourite moments in Act 2 of Patience, and it's always one that I really enjoy. I gave it an 8 for enjoyment, and I also gave it an 8 for emotional comedic impact, because there's so many opportunities for them to be funny here. And also a little bit of an opportunity for the Duke to be emotional, because it is a bit sad that he might end up on his own. Well, I mean, according to the day, because it's terribly sad for anyone to be single, especially women. Oh my goodness! But today we don't really mind so much about that kind of thing. He does get to be a little bit emotional about the fact that he might have to live alone. But then also, what's silly about it is, what happened to Ella? This is where Patience 2, Ella's Revenge, comes back in, when Ella just realises she's just been completely forgotten about by everyone. But then the last scene, Bunthorne goes, Angela, Ella, Saphir. So they all know that Ella exists, but she just wasn't in this song. And the Duke just seems to forget that any other women exist. So it is silly, and narratively, it doesn't really make too much sense that the Duke would feel like he has to choose between these two women. But in this case, I really don't care, because these characters are not set up to be big emotional characters, so you're not losing anything by subtly treating them in this frivolous way. They've always been quite frivolous, silly characters. So in this case, I have no issue at all with how silly and meaningless this song is. It's just a big, fun moment that I really appreciate. It's this injection of joy into the world, and it works so well at concerts as well, because it's immediately understandable what's going on. And it's just so stupid the way they're just swapping out these words. Oh, I can marry you, and that means you marry you, and But also it's the fact that the Duke is deciding that, oh, well, if I take Angela, that means that, like, this person gets Saphir, like, automatically, like, they don't even get to choose, like, which one of them has Saphir after, like, the Duke just decides. And then the second, there's no like rank either. It's not like the Colonel would then get the next person, because in one verse the Major gets the next person, and it's just not based on anything. but it's deliberately like that, and I'm here for it. So it's one of those instances where I do not mind that it's meaningless and stupid, because it's not designed to be anything more than that, and it's not pretending to be anything other than that. It is just a lovely serotonin rush, and yes. So I actually had a tie in 2 and 3, as well as between 4 and 5, and it was easy to break this tie because I just broke it thinking of my audience, and I felt that if I didn't put this one in number 3 and I put it in number 2, people would complain. So, and it's really difficult for me, because number 3, I think, is the best number musically on this whole list. I gave it a 20 out of 20 for music. It was the only one that I gave a 20 to. But I do appreciate that pretty much every other aspect of it is not quite as... Poetry as well, I think the poetry is superior. So I think the actual Gilbert and Sullivan-ness of it is probably better. But then the message of it, the dramatic impact, the emotional comedic impact, and the enjoyment all went to the other one. So I do think this one deserves to be in 3rd place below the 2nd place one, and I do still think it's done extremely well, considering it is a number that is often cut, and that is strange the views some people hold from the Grand Duke.
Strange the views some people hold, two young fellows quarrel, then they fight, for both are bold, rage of both is uncalled, both are stretched out stern and cold, prithee where's the moral? Ding ding dong, ding dong dong, ding ding dong, ding dong dong. There's an end to further action, and this barbarous describe the satisfaction. Ha ha, ha ha, satisfaction. Ding ding dong, ding ding dong, ding ding dong, ding ding dong. If society were bold, who'd suppose the method old? Strings the views some people hold. Strange, oh strange the views. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, dong, dong.
So when I played Lisa recently, one of the things that I was most looking forward to in playing Lisa was getting to sing the harmony part in Strange the Views, but then we cut the number, so I didn't get to sing it. So that was really sad for me, and I do hope that I get to sing Lisa's part in this song because it's a really satisfying part. Honestly, I remember when I first listened to this one musically, probably back in 2005, or yeah, it would have been 2005, I was completely blown away by how musically good this was. All the key changes, it's so unexpected. Like the way the keys travel through each other, the way that the chords progress. I appreciate that it doesn't really add anything much to the story. Like I only gave it a 6 for like the message of it, because you can cut this song and still completely understand what a statutory duel is. And I don't even think it's particularly emotional comedic. I mean, I gave it a 7, but that's only because of the added element of Julia singing like a different part to the other people. So they're like a quartet and then she's over the top, and I find that really funny. So I gave it a 7. I just gave it like a couple of extra marks. I probably would have given it a 5 had it not been for that element of Julia just being totally in her own world as a diva. And that element, I think, really makes it, and it makes it so silly and funny. But yeah, that's not enough to put it above the one in second place for sure. The sing, sing, song, song. Oh, that's so crunchy with the top part as well. That's just, I love that. I love it when Julia goes, there's an end to further action, and it's barbarous transaction. I love that chord. It's going to satisfaction, oh, satisfaction, sing, 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 song. Do 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 do. I love these chord changes. I wish I could sing in chords to like portray to you just how luxurious this moment is, but I love Strange the Views. I think it is just such a special moment. I wonder if I'd not done like quartets and quintets, and if I just split it into songs that are really designed to be musically beautiful, I wonder where this would have ranked among songs like Strange Adventure, because I would honestly put this on a par, if not higher than Strange Adventure. I find this absolutely stunning. I don't know, especially people who were in my quartets video, so Will, Joanna, Leon, like, please tell me if you would rank this higher musically than Strange Adventure, because I certainly would. I think this is really lovely musically. Like, I don't know if it necessarily corresponds to 20s I've given in other videos musically, but it definitely gets a 20 in this list. I think there's something really surprising about these chord progressions, and it just totally blew me away when I first listened to it. And so it's really the music and just the poetry of the lyrics. It's just pretty. Get a load of this poetry. Strange the view some people hold when two people quarrel. Then they fight for both the bold. Rage of both is uncontrolled. Both are stretched out stark and cold. Prithee, where's the moral? Like, I love that scansion. There's an end to further action, and this barbarous transaction is described as satisfaction. Like, I love this like amping up of tension. Each is laid in churchyard mould. Strange the view some people hold. Maybe that ending's a bit flabby. Better than the method old, which was coarse and cruel, is the plan that we've extolled. Sing thy virtues manifold, better than refined gold, statutory jewel. It's like that King John poem. You know the one, you know, the poem about King John's Christmas. King John was not a good man. He had his little ways, and sometimes no one spoke to him for days and days and days. And people passed by him when walking in the town, would walk with supercilious stares or pass up noses in the air, and bad King John stood glumly there, blushing beneath his crown. You know, it's that, I love it when, like, you just keep hearing rhyme after rhyme after rhyme, and then it resets. Yes, Katie, exactly. There's something about that that just gives my ears lots of pleasure. And I hope I've described that in a way. Like, there's something that, like, I can't talk like Will, Joanna and Leon when they say, oh, I love it when, like, the fourth moves to the sixth. Like, I can't talk like that. I don't have the knowledge. Like, I know what a fourth chord is. Like, I can play it on the piano, but I can't just hear it and know what it is. So I can't talk the way they talk. So I just have to say, I like it. I don't know why I like it, but I like it. And, like, maybe that's more entertaining. I don't know. But it's maybe somebody with more musical terminology can back me up why this one is so good. But yeah, it does slightly fall behind just in the fact that it could just be cut and you really wouldn't miss it. But it's not obstructing to the narrative, and it's very beautiful. It's just that the Grand Duke's already quite long. And even when I did it in 2018, this was one of the very few things that I cut a verse of. I thought you probably only do one verse. But I think I probably would do both. If/when we do it again, just because I kind of want to be a completionist now and just do all the music. But it is so beautiful, and I just want people to know that there's value in numbers like this. Even if they don't seem very lively or very meaningful, there's still a lot of value to be had. However, number 2, I think, is very rightfully number 2, and I'm very happy to put it here. Like, I didn't just put it here because I feared the mob in the comments. Like, I genuinely do think this one deserves to be here, and that is I Rejoice That It's Decided from The Sorcerer, one of the most famous and most loved quintets in Gilbert and Sullivan, and it was even part of the Students of Penzance, which is a show that I did in April with Sarah Nash in Bristol, and which featured several forebear performers and lots of people that I didn't even know who were also fabulous. So this is just absolute dynamite, this number. I only gave it a 17 for music. I don't think it quite reaches the dizzy heights of those 2 Grand Duke numbers, but it is lovely, especially that no one left to marry. Oh, that's just divine. But the rest of it, it is lovely, but it is erring on simplicity on occasion, but it is beautiful, and I really do appreciate it. I appreciate the smooth transitions from the verses to he will tend them, nurse them, mend. Maybe 17 was too low. You know what? Let's up my 17 to an 18. There we go. So I gave it an 18 instead. It doesn't affect its ranking. It just means it doesn't tie with the third place one anymore. But there's still 7 marks between that one and first place. So first place was first place by a long way. I give it a 17 for the poetry of the lyrics. I actually don't think the poetry's particularly advanced in this one. I mean, it's fine. I rejoice that it's decided happy now will be my life. You know, it's a little tiny bit clunky. She will tend him, nurse him, mend him, air his linen, dry his tears. You know, what is the message here? I like the message in that it works. It's a clear narrative event, and this is one of my favourite points in The Sorcerer, the preceding dialogue and this song. I don't appreciate the very kind of sexist language, but this is one of those examples where I'm certainly not blaming Gilbert for this, because it's not, he doesn't mean it in like a mean-spirited way, and he's not trying to make a message of, oh, women should be in the home. Like, he's not trying to say that. He's just simply commenting on the type of roles that women would play at the time, which is totally fair, and I'm not in any way criticising Gilbert for it, but I would say that because of that, it's not she will tend to nurse and mend him. It's not aged particularly well, but in the context of The Sorcerer and the fact that she, as a lower class person, is marrying Marmaduke, that is quite a big thing, and it's fun to hear everyone's opinion about what's going on, and Alexis like trying not to be cross about it. I mean, Aline seems happier about it than Alexis, even though Aline presumably wanted her mother and his father to marry. She's taking it all very well, actually, Alina's. So she's happy about it. I gave it a 7 for dramatic impact. I don't think it's particularly in your face, but it's still definitely a moment. It's lovely. Emotional comedic impact though, I gave this a 9 because it's really funny. Especially Mrs. Partlet's verse. I'm oh saucy, minx and giddy. What is that? It's one of those alto moments where I know certainly like me and a couple of my friends who I don't know if they want to be named for the purposes of what I'm about to say because it's a very silly thing. But I have a certain number of friends who we like typically just laugh at bits that are like really alto-y. No, but a number one for me is the our polite attention touches heart of you can't heart of darkness. And the other one is bearded by these puny mortals. Like a really big, powerful alto. But that I know saucy minx and giddy. There's something really, really funny about the alto's line in it, and the fact that it's completely different to what's come before. So I do, you know, I'm giving this a 19 for music. It's got a 19. I do think the music works really well with each individual person who's singing, and but then the bit where Dr. Daly, he's actually genuinely quite emotional. There's this really profound moment which ties in with the no one left to marry. She was. Let's go back into the other tune again. It's so fun. I gave it a 9 for enjoyment. I don't enjoy it quite as much as the Gavotte Quintet. That's always just a right. Because the thing is, this can be boring, and I've seen this sometimes boring, but the Quintet's always great. But like this is just so good. I mean, if I was ranking things in the way that I talked about before, where I only give something a really high kind of emotional comedic impact if it has both of those elements in it, this would win if I was doing that. But I feel like in this list I have taken into account when the things are just so emotional that they actually would just win that category even if they weren't funny. And in this instance, number 1 is just purely an emotional number, but I do think it definitely deserves its place. But there is a part of me that does think that this is my favourite one on the list, just because it's so well balanced and it's got so many amazingly good and diverse things about it. Like all the characters shine, they're amazing, it fits so well into the story. Yeah, this is definitely better than Strange the Views. I'm sorry, I went temporarily mad thinking that was equal to it. It's just so good musically, Strange the Views. That's what bamboozled me. But this one I really do think is better. I do think that this one definitely deserves number 2. It's just such a riot and there's so much going on. The characters shine, as I say. It works so well in the story. It has such a big dramatic impact. I only gave that a 7. I didn't give it a huge mark because it's not a big show-stopping number, but it is pretty good. And yeah, 9 for enjoyment. So this gets a 60 out of 70. Really, really well done. Absolutely adore this number. And I love it when things in the Sorcerer do really well because it's one that I don't like rate as being in the same ballpark as the others sometimes. And I'm so glad that one is doing well in some categories and it's making me remember why I love it so much. So well done, Sorcerer Song. Finally, we move on to number 1. And number 1 is one that I actually pulled out of an Act 1 finale, but it had to be. I could not possibly have done a Quintets plus video without involving this song. And this song is one that is very much loved in the community. It's one that I think about almost every day for how amazingly beautiful it is. And the fact that it is such a profoundly emotional moment in amongst a whole load of hilarious comedy makes it all the better. There are moments in GNS that have real emotional pathos. I'm thinking about the Lord Chancellor, Iolanthe, that moment. Jack Point's moment at the end of Yeoman. Julia's second act solo in The Grand Duke. What other ones can we think of? Love is a Plaintive Song from the same opera. There Was a Time from the Gondoliers. When we think of all these really heightened emotional moments, they do come along with beautiful music, but there's something so magical about this number, and everyone sings it. The whole chorus is there, and the whole chorus are together just experiencing this incredible poetry with this wonderful message, singing just the most beautiful music in the canon. I mean, I only gave the music a 19, but such stunning music with such beautiful moving parts in it, from characters that have heretofore been comedic characters that haven't really shown us emotion, but here they are, remembering themselves. So, from the Act 1 finale of Patience, we have I Hear the Soft Note of the Echoing Voice, a sextet, which then has the chorus joining in. And I've included this in the Quintets Plus, because it is a sextet with chorus, with the addition of the chorus. But even if you stopped it before the chorus began, it would still win. It's an absolutely beautiful number. But this gets a 66 out of 70. I really couldn't fault it much at all. I only gave it an 8 for enjoyment, because I do appreciate that if you've just got and I don't mean to poo-poo amateur productions at all. I regret saying just, you know, I don't mean just an amateur, and oh gosh, that automatically professional productions are better. But what I mean when I say things like that is that when you do get some amateur productions, you've obviously not got necessarily professional singers, and you don't always have the time as well to really blend all the voices together. So I can appreciate how in an amateur production of this, or a professional production that's not had enough rehearsal time, this may fall a bit flat. Like, I can see that it might fall flat sometimes if you've not got like a really good chorus. But really, if this is done to its pinnacle, like if this is done the best way it possibly can be done, it's just one of the most beautiful moments in the canon. Emotional comedic impact, I gave that a 10. Even though it's not funny, I gave it a 10. Dramatic impact, 10. It's so still. It's one of the few still moments that I felt like I could give a 10 out of 10 for dramatic impact to. The lyrics being a sass message, I only gave that a 9 and not a 10, just because I don't think you really connect the characters to the message so much. But it's this idea that we had a silly moment and we wavered, but now we're home again and I've remembered why it was that I love you. And then in an hour's time, they're all swapping wives over and stuff. So, you know, I don't know how seriously these characters take that message. But if you just, like, as I say, if you take the message out of the opera, it really is truly divine. This is a number that would totally fit into a wedding ceremony. You could totally sing this number at a wedding and I would be in like floods of tears. Oh, never, oh, never. Then, of course, they do, like, a moment later when Grosvenor comes in. But that is kind of what makes it so funny, because it's this big operatic, properly serious, genuine moment. Then, oh no, it's gone. And there's something just so Gilbertian about that is very funny. I gave the poetry of the lyrics a 10 out of 10. I hear the soft note of the echoing voice of an old, old love long dead. It whispers my sorrowing heart, rejoice, for the last sad tear is shed. The pain that is all but a pleasure will change for the pleasure that's all but pain. And never, oh never, our hearts will range from that old, old love again. This is why I say that Gilbert's average mark is a 7. Because I think I received a comment recently that was saying that they consider that all of Gilbert's stuff is like at least a 9. But what I'm saying is, like, this is the benchmark for a 10, like this number. And some of the poetry, like, I rejoice that it's decided, happy now will be my life. Can you see now why I mean that that's a 7, but this is a 10? You know, it's just when the meaning of the words come from the beauty of the words, like when those two are just completely intertwined, and when you feel like you get physical pleasure from how these words scan and from reading out the words, like that's what I'm talking about. For a 7 just goes to something, oh that's nice, but this is more than nice. This is mind-bending poetry. I absolutely love this poetry, and it's just so emotional coming from a man who is just appeared to be quite stuffy. And I'm going back to, and this is what I was talking about when I was last talking about Patience with the rapturous maidens. You know, it's so interesting to me how, like, Gilbert manages to himself be such an emotional person through his art, but yet he in himself was kind of quite gruff and Victorian and quite stuffy. You know, this might have been the best way he could express himself. And yeah, I think this is just an absolutely beautiful moment. I don't really need to talk too much about it because everyone knows this one and you all know why it came top. So yeah, tell me if you disagree. Tell me if you think I rejoice that it's decided should have won, but I think the right one won. Thank you very much for watching this video today. This was probably, to your relief, a shorter one than most of them. I've only got one bit of housekeeping today. Just remember that I have these Gondoliers DVDs from our performance at Hever Castle, and this, remember, it's got all our faces on. It was a great show, and if you buy these you will really help the company and you'll get a great addition to your DVD collection. And I would love to know what you think about it if you watch it. So yeah, just hit me up if you want one of these. I will let you know how you can pay, how I'll post it to you. I can also give them to you at the festival if you're going to the festival. So I'll bring a few up there just in case anyone wants to buy one off me. And remember that, well, actually, have I said this yet? That I'm playing Mad Margaret in Savoy-Net's Ruddigore on the 10th of August. So that's one of the next things that's happening. Forbear Theatre are doing HMS Pinafore on the 18th and 19th of August in Ettington Park, which is near Stratford upon Avon. So if you're vaguely near that area or feel like travelling there, it's going to be an evening performance on the 18th and a matinee performance on the 19th, so you'd have time to get there on the 19th and come back again. I will post more information about that on the Facebook page. That's not organised by me, it's organised by a really lovely couple who put us up there and like help us out with all the publicity and everything. So I can pass you on to them if you have any questions about those events. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I will reiterate again that I typically get between 400 and 500 views, and yet I only have 170 subscribers, so please do take a moment just to hit the subscribe button, and please share these videos, like put them on your Facebook and your Instagram, like say, hey, I saw this great video by this really funny and clever and beautiful person called Rachel GNS Middle, and I want you to see this video because I like you and I want you to experience this person as well. So please do that. I'd be really grateful. Thank you.